dragon comes to communicate with you, you're going to be able to, if you tried to hug that dragon, you're going to go through that dragon. It's operating on a different frequency band in a high vibrational rate. So they're here right now. I mean, I've got a blue dragon that's with me right now.
Wow.
Blue and golden dragon. Like, I've got my lions here. There's a lion here to my right hand side. Most people can't see them, but they're here. They're just they're operating in a different frequency band. So it's not that the dragons have gone extinct. It's just that the vibrational fields have shifted, and we're operating in a different band of energy than they're operating in. So most people are unaware of them.
Wow. All right, guys, got Jerry Sargeant back on the pod today, one of my most viewed guests. Thanks for coming, man. I know you're busy.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's good to be back, man.
You got events all over the world, right?
Non-stop.
Where's the next one?
This weekend in LA.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we've got a 2-day group healing.
Yeah, and we were just talking about how important it is to learn how to protect yourself these days. A lot of our friends and people in our community are under spiritual attack, right?
100%. Yeah, it's getting more and more prominent.
Yeah. At first, I used to really be skeptical about this stuff, but now I'm seeing more and more people close to me or people I know getting affected by it.
Yeah, and we were saying earlier, there was a guy that I was working with last year, and was due to do a podcast on the Saturday. On the Friday night, he just dropped down dead in his kitchen, just unexpectedly.
That's insane. Was he exposing a lot of stuff?
Exposing a lot of stuff, yeah.
Wow.
He was on CNN during COVID and stuff, got poisoned with water. Yeah.
Yeah, because these days, they can poison almost anything, and you have no idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, a guy that reached out to me a few years back, he was in the Royal Air Force in the UK, he started exposing a lot of stuff, and they attacked his wife remotely, put her in a wheelchair. She feeds for a straw now. She's gone from whatever weight she was down to a beanpole. She's really skinny. Yeah, she dribbles all day and stares at the TV, and she was a completely functioning lady.
That's terrible.
So,
how do those remote attacks work? Do you have to be at a low spiritual level to be attacked like that?
It depends. I mean, I was on a podcast 2 days ago in LA, and I'm sat there being interviewed by this awesome couple, and the guy starts choking, like he can't speak. He's like, he can't breathe. And I looked, and I saw that something had come down through his crown and placed an implant in his throat whilst we were talking. I didn't see it happen at the time.
Wow.
They just slipped it in the back, so I just asked him to be still. I brought up his hologram, opened up the back of his throat, took the implant out, drained the energy out of his neck, and brought in some different frequencies, and boom, he was back to normal again. But these things can just slide in anywhere. It's happening a lot in dream time, because we're becoming more conscious, we're becoming more self-aware. And so the veil is thinning, and so people are starting to understand and remembering how to operate and to not fight against these attacks, but navigate them, dance with them, and to realize that it's a game, and we can navigate that game very easily.
Right.
But when you don't know the game and you don't know you're under attack, these things are sliding in. And because people are becoming more aware, it's happening a lot in dream time.
So are these attacks ramping up, or are people just becoming more aware, you think?
They've always been there. But because people are becoming more aware and people are spreading more messages, then I think that it's amplifying. So 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, I was at the Conscious Life Expo in LA. And there was a guy there that was channeling Alpha Draconians. And reptilians. And we talk about reptilians, but not all reptilians are bad.
Oh,
there are
really?
some beautiful reptilians too. But it's the same as anything. I mean, there's humans that are good and bad. There's Pleiadians that are good. So it's everywhere. But these beings have been kind of hiding in the shadows for so many years. But now you've got human beings that are directly out in the forefront in a popular exhibition, actually channeling these things and sharing their messages blatantly. Because the war is amping up. If you go back over the last couple of years, there was an explosion. I can't remember when it was. It was about a couple of years ago in Lebanon. There's a Stargate in Lebanon. And there was a massive explosion because what they wanted to do is to bring a load of negative entities through the Stargate. Because there's a hierarchical system in with these dark forces.
Yeah.
Lucifer has kind of controlled the universe for a long time, or been one of the main heads of the universe. And then on a planet Earth environment, you've got the devil and Satan, who kind of work very closely together. But these beings have been kind of banished at a certain level and are not operating down on Earth the way that they were before.
All right, guys, Ketone IQ, high performance energy shot, natural supplement. First time ever trying this. Let's see what happens. No artificial flavors or colors. 100 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea and 5 grams of ketones and 0 sugar. All right, let's see what we got here. Let me shake it first, actually, just in case. Wow, it actually tastes pretty good. Not gonna lie. Shout out to Ketone IQ. Good stuff.
The interdimensional entities, they're fighting for power. They want dominion. So they've gone a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Before there was kind of order within the dark camp.
There's a hierarchy.
Now there's no order. They've got no boss. So there's other beings that want to be the boss. And so people are just, well, not people, these beings are going crazy trying to fight for dominion. So when they blew that Stargate up, they were bringing another load of higher dimensional beings in to just cause havoc.
Wow.
And it's just gone a little bit crazy.
Do you think it's possible to repair some of these Stargates?
Absolutely. 100%.
That's good, right? Because we haven't been able to use them for a while.
So I think on our last podcast, I mentioned that a couple of years ago, I was able to go through Stargate 4 in the Giza Pyramid. I actually collapsed my physical body into light and went up through Stargate 4. So we've got our Egypt trip coming up again in March the 17th. We start for 3 weeks. And some friends and I have just rebuilt this ascension temple, this fifth dimensional kind of, not really a temple, but like a protection mechanism that sits over the top of the Giza Plateau. So when we go to the King's Chamber in a few weeks, we're going to reactivate this properly. So all of the template and the constructs in place. When we go into the King's Chamber, we're going to do a powerful activation with our group, activate this thing, and this is going to take control of Stargate 4 fully.
Wow.
Once again for the light.
Nice. That's exciting.
Yes, beautiful.
That's super cool. Yeah, because I know last time you came on, you said a lot of the Stargates are in control by the government, right?
Well, not necessarily the government. Some of them are by the government, but you've got to go higher than the government. You've got to go to the beings that are controlling the government, because the government really just puppets on the strings.
Right. And is that a universal thing, you think?
What do you mean?
Like governments across the world or just the U.S.?
I think across the world, man. Everybody's in on it. I mean, there are some leaders of this so-called free world that are trying to do good.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's a massive, massive challenge. You know, if things are going to change, you've got to have like leaders in this physical form that want to create that change, that have got all of their physical forces, all of this 3D reality on their side. At the same time, you need the multi-dimensional grids put in place, because everything that's happening in this physical world is an extension of the quantum field. So if we're going to change things here physically, we've got to change things quantumly first. And if we can change it in the quantum, we can change it in the physical. But if you go and try and change it in the physical without laying down that architecture in the quantum first, it's just never going to work.
Interesting. So what has to be changed in the quantum field then?
Depends on what you want to do. So for us as a human species, we've got to build new infrastructure. We've got to build new multi-dimensional architecture. We've got to clear the ley lines, clear the grid points. We've got to open new stargates. So last year, we started building this new Dragons grid. We went to 15 countries, and we spoke about this on the last podcast. But since then, we've been to a whole load of other countries. Just before Christmas, I was in Hong Kong, Belize, Jamaica, Dominican Republic. Last week, I was in Miami. I'm going back to LA tomorrow, and we're finishing the head and the neck of this Dragons grid. So then we'll have the tail, the wing, the head and the neck, and then this year we're going to build the other wing. And then over the course of this year and next year, we're going to open 13 new stargates that are going to run through the tail of this Dragon's wing. So there's going to be a whole new level of architecture, which will bring a new level of consciousness to planet Earth, because it's the framework for it to be held is there in the quantum.
Yeah, that's exciting. I saw you on another show talking about how you're in communication with dragons, right?
Non-stop.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because people previously thought they were extinct or they never existed at all, right?
I mean, dragons have been through what we're going through on planet Earth billions of years ago. So the dragons, they were in a very dark space going back billions of years, and they've been through their own ascension on their own planets and in their own galaxies. So they understand what we're going through, and that's why they're here to hold space for us and support us. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all dragons are beautiful and people should just trust every dragon that comes into their space. Because again, just like the reptilians and other beings around the universe, there are some good ones and some not so good ones.
Right.
Some have got darker intents, some have got lighter intents. But ultimately, the dragon community on a whole is here to help us.
What happened to them? What made them go extinct, I guess, back in the day?
I wouldn't say they've ever been extinct. They just operate on a different frequency band. So we're here, down here in this third dimensional space. We've got this fourth dimensional space bridge to the fifth dimension. We're operating in this kind of field of experience, and our bodies, they seem solid.
Yeah.
If a dragon comes to communicate with you, you're going to be able to. If you tried to hug that dragon, you're going to go through that dragon. It's operating on a different frequency band, in a high vibrational rate. So they're here right now. I mean, I've got a blue dragon that's with me right now.
Wow.
Blue and golden dragon. Like, I've got my lions here. There's a lion here to my right-hand side. Most people can't see them, but they're here. They're just they're operating in a different frequency band. So it's not that the dragons have gone extinct. It's just that the vibrational fields have shifted, and we're operating in a different band of energy than they're operating in. So most people are unaware of them.
Wow, that is super interesting. I want to talk about remote viewing. So the Madeleine McCann case, which is a famous one, you found out what actually happened there, right?
Yeah, this was kind of a really wild experience, and it was something that kind of just happened to me just after I started my spiritual journey. I mean, all of this stuff started opening up for me after a car crash in 2004, which we spoke about last time. And then in 2007, I was on a stepping machine in the gym. And literally a day or 2 days before, this young girl had gone missing in Portugal. I can't remember how old she was, 3-4 years old, but she was young. Little girl, blonde hair, blue eyes. And it was all over the newspapers. She was on holiday with her family. And I'm on the stepping machine, and I see her in my mind. And I'm kind of like shaking my head, and I sort of go into this vision. And I go into a cave, and I'm like, no way, this is Madeleine. I can't believe that I'm seeing her. Anyway, I come out, and I'd met this lady who was my kind of spiritual teacher at the time. And so I phoned her up, and I said, listen, I think I found Madeleine. Actually, before I did that, I went onto the Madeleine McCann website, and I said, listen, I'm a psychic. I think I found your daughter. No one ever got back to me, you know what I mean? But I did it anyway. It just felt like the right thing to do. Anyway, I phoned this lady, and she said, you better come and see me. So I'm driving in my car to see this lady who had a past life regression business, and something's trying to make me push my car into the central reservation.
Wow!
Like I had to fight with all of my kind of willpower to keep my own car on the road. Whatever was trying to make me crash, it was like a part of me inside of me, and sort of like had taken over me a little bit. So anyway, I get to her, and we go into this kind of like vision, and we remote view this cave. We go into the cave. There's a mattress on the floor, there's a table, and there's an old lady in there. So we're just looking around. We come out the cave, we turn right, and we're walking along the coastline. We look out to sea, and we see these islands. And there's these kind of like metal posts with kind of like serial numbers at the bottom. So we're stopping, we're writing them down, we're coming out of our remote viewing, writing it down on the paper, writing down all these bits of information. We went to this local market town, and we found out that we were in Algeria. We got the name of the town. We listened to this guy that was talking. He was a brother. He was speaking to another brother, and they were talking about what had happened to Madeleine McCann. And what we got from the story was that Madeleine McCann was stolen to order by an Egyptian prince. And because of all the international heat, because it blew up massively overnight, it was over all the TV programs, newspapers. They'd kind of kept Madeleine in this cave because they couldn't move her because everybody was looking for her. So we get all this information. We find out that she was taken, wrapped in a bit of carpet, taken to Gibraltar, put on a yellow boat, taken to Morocco, and then driven in a white car up to Algeria, and then she's in this cave. So anyway, we come out, we've got all this information. The lady that I was working with, she worked for Scotland Yard. Okay, the police in the psychic division.
Got it.
She helped them solve crimes, so she knew people in there. So she phoned them up and she said, listen, I'm with a client of mine, and we think we found Madeleine. We think we've tracked her to Algeria. And Scotland Yard turned around and said, we know we've already tracked her there ourselves already. So for me, it blew my mind because what we were seeing and what we were experiencing had been confirmed at the highest level. So they turned around and they said, listen, we're assembling a team to go in and get her because we can't cross these borders, these money lines, these religious lines. So I assumed maybe it's the SAS or some kind of military team that is going to go in and kind of extract her.
Yeah.
Before that happened, she ended up getting transported to South America because this Egyptian guy had pulled out the deal. And so she was with a Colombian guy in South America, and she was coming to visit me all the time. And I remote viewed the place in Colombia, and I got her address. They changed her name to Rosalinda Gonzalez. I even made like a rap about it and put this rap video on YouTube years ago telling the story. And in 2013 or 14, I was in Brazil doing ayahuasca. And I'm in this daytime ceremony, and she appeared before me, and she said, Jerry, you better get this news out because I won't be here much longer. And that was the last time I ever heard from her.
Damn.
So maybe they sacrificed her, but I've tried to tap into her field and she's just not around anymore.
Holy crap.
But this is what kind of got me into remote viewing, and it gave me the confidence to realize that what I was seeing is actually true. And I've had many, many other experiences, remote viewing experiences in different parts of the world, and people have confirmed things to me. And it gives you that courage and that confidence to trust in this process.
Well, the CIA pretty much confirmed it exists, remote viewing.
100%.
So it's not even woo-woo anymore. People are doing it, and there's proof of it.
Yeah, and they've been training these operatives for a long time.
Yeah. I think a lot of governments have that division now, right? To protect their
100%.
intel, protect their bases. You remote viewed some bases as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I homeschooled my children. And so when I first started homeschooling them, I used to do remote viewing with them. So I remember one day I was with my daughter, and we remote viewed Dolce in New Mexico. And so we've drunk 42.5 grams of cacao each, which is a ceremonial dose, opened up our hearts, dropped into this space, and set the target for Dolce. So we've gone into the desert, gone down into this underground base, and we turn right, and it's a massive, massive kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, like walkway, but a huge kind of tunnel, which was so high and so wide. And we're walking down, and we look over to the right-hand side, and they've got all these massive cylinders. They're like kind of huge test tubes, but massive. And there's like half humans and half some kind of like extraterrestrial species, all like mangled and twisted, where they're kind of like trying to splice and clone them. We've gone down this corridor, and we've looked through this glass window, and we see these two reptilians in these like white doctor's cloaks. And so we go into the room, and we're walking down the back, and we get halfway down the wall, and my daughter, she says, Dad, they've seen me. I said, no, they've not seen you. She said, no, look over there. So I've looked to the side, and there was two grey extraterrestrials staring at my daughter. They moved through the wall right up into her space and scared her. She started crying, so I said, listen. She was like 11, 12 at the time. I said, listen, let's get out of here. So we've come down the back wall, we've gone out, and we've gone back out into the desert, and we opened up what we call jump stations, which are like portals. So we open up these jump stations, we go through and we're closing them down behind us. So we're opening them up, closing, opening, closing, so it leaves no energetic trace. So we could jump through multiple jump stations and get back to our house without these beings tracking us.
Right.
So yeah, we ended up getting back without getting tracked and carried on. But yeah, I mean, I've remote viewed Area 51. I know people that have been into Area 51 and confirmed everything that I've seen.
Wow.
Many, many different things.
So there's actually aliens there, Area 51?
Yeah, I mean, a guy that I actually interviewed, he saw a draconian holding a reptilian around his neck, and reptilians are huge.
Wow.
So this draconian with wings on its back had this reptilian up kind of saying something, like the guy wasn't sure, but he was like telling them off in a way for not doing whatever this being wanted him to do.
Dang.
Yeah, he met tall whites in there. When I was interviewing this guy, he got attacked actually on his way to work one day.
Holy crap.
And he came out of his house one day, went into his garden shed, and there was a guy there with a gun saying, if you share any more of this shit,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
the end of it. But we continued with a couple more interviews. I was actually doing an interview with him one day, and he was talking about Antarctica. And he kept saying the same thing several times. I said, Trev, you've just told me this like 3 or 4 times. And I looked up, and there was a reptilian that was in the room, and it was blank set in his memory at the end of every sentence.
Wow.
So we had to stop the interview, and from that point on, he got a little bit freaked out, and he was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And he got attacked under a railway bridge on the way to work, different things, yeah.
That's terrible, man.
Yeah.
Do you think they can wipe memories too?
100%. I mean, even if you look at us as human beings, like we come, our souls drop down into these human bodies through a fourth dimensional bridge. Depending on where we're coming from in the galaxy, a lot of us come through Venus bridge. We come through different ways, but we come down into the physical vessel, and we go through the birth canal. And when we come out, I mean, there's so many things that happen during the birth process, but the umbilical cord gets cut too quickly. We're supposed to keep the umbilical cord connected to the placenta so we can download all of those star codes. We're not supposed to go through the birthing process the way that we do. There's not supposed to be medication.
Right.
The woman isn't supposed to be lying down handing her power over to a bunch of doctors. She's supposed to be stood upright. There's many things that are completely messed up about the birth process. But one of the reasons we go through this process is because our memory is blank slated, and so we come out with no recall. If you look at a lot of these other beings, a lot of these rich families that are controlling the planet or have controlled the planet for a long time, and the beings that control them, they retain all of their memory. So they're coming down, and it's like, okay, we're just starting from where we left off. Imagine if you did everything that you achieved in this life, and then you passed back to spirit and came down with all that knowledge, and then started in, you're stacking.
Yeah.
But we're coming down and getting blank slated. That's part of the process.
Wow.
And that's what makes this game so tough, because we've got this Groundhog Day all over again. But what's happening now, because consciousness is expanding, we're getting that recall. We're remembering how to tap into our past lives. We're remembering how to activate that DNA.
Yeah.
So we're actually remembering a lot of our ancient galactic history, which is beautiful. And that's another reason that the attacks are becoming more prevalent, because we're starting to wake up and become a more advanced species.
Right.
So the other side's got to up the game too.
Yeah. But now they're trying to medicate us. We forget it. You know, they're trying to put kids on medication.
100%.
It's
yeah.
terrible.
I worked with this couple in England several years back, and their child was a genius. Like, he was doing Einstein type equations at like 3-4 years old. This kid was an absolute genius. And so the school reported him. And so what happened is this government agency came in, and they took the child, put him into a home, took him away from the parents, made up some kind of rubbish excuse, and kept him there till he was about 10, 11 years old. They sent him back to his parents. He was demonized, addicted to drugs, addicted to pornography.
Damn.
They literally stripped all of that magic and alchemy out of him.
Holy crap.
Yeah. When I actually went into work with them, I went to their house, went into their front room. There was a reptilian in the front room that was just there to control and monitor.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a real hard, tough case. We had loads of these kind of things.
I've heard the U.S. did that with kids that were really smart, actually. There was a separate school that they would get sent to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll take the children in, and they'll try and amplify those gifts and railroad those children into working for the government. Sometimes they'll just mess them up.
Yeah.
I don't know why they choose one over the other, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's to do with the children's DNA, where they came from.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do that with hackers, too. They'll, if they get hacked into their government system, they'll hire them.
Yeah.
You know, instead of locking them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just steal the best type of talent, no matter what it is.
I was working with a DJ in Europe a few months back, and he got in contact with me because someone had hacked into his head.
Damn.
And they were making him do things. And it sounds wild, but he was this man that was speaking to him in his head, literally punching into a computer, but the computer had plugged into his biological computer, his body and brain, and was saying to him, listen, we've got a plan to get everybody addicted to pornography. And if you tell anyone about this, then we're going to harm you, we're going to harm your family, blah, blah, blah. And he's obviously trying to communicate back with this guy and say no, and the guy's just controlling him and making him do things.
Damn.
And if he doesn't do it, then there's consequences. And so we had to go in and detach him from this computer program and literally defrag all of it. It was crazy.
Holy crap.
Yeah, when you go into these things, it's like you're going into the back of someone's mind. It's like a complicated, multi-dimensional safe. Sometimes it can take you months to kind of break it down, sometimes weeks, sometimes hours. It just depends.
Did he have a microchip inside of him, or how did they hack in?
No microchips. The body and brain is a biological computer. And if you know how to access it, then you can just tap into it through a computer system.
That's scary, man.
Yeah, I've had loads of clients like this. I had a guy in Taiwan or somewhere a few years ago, and he was addicted to porn.
Yeah.
And he was on a porn channel. And at the side of this porn channel, there were all these little kind of screens that were trying to entice him into going into another room. So he's gone into this other room, and there was some really sick stuff in there. But anyway, when he was in there, he got programmed. So what started happening is every night at 10 p.m., a satellite would come round by his apartment block, plug into the back of his head, and put his brain into this program that he couldn't get out of until the morning. So he would like go into a white room. There was no doors. All of his worst nightmares are in there.
Wow.
And they're chasing him all night. And he just can't escape. He started sleeping in a Faraday cage, inside a Faraday cage. He was trying all of these different things. He was searching on the internet for answers, and he found this doctor in America that had said he designed some of these programs. So he reached out to this doctor and said, listen, I really need your help. And the doctor turned around to him and said, listen, the best thing you can do is buy a shotgun, put it in your mouth, and blow your own head off.
Jeez.
And I was like, nah, that can't be true. But he showed me the message. And so we ended up going in. It took us about 6 months to deprogram this guy. It was very complicated.
Holy crap.
Yeah, but this stuff's happening because we're computer systems. And if you know, you can hack a computer system, you can hack the brain.
Yeah. So if you get to a certain level of notoriety, like you see these celebrities, they're all like taking over, right? Pretty much.
A lot of them.
Yeah. That makes me wonder, like, if they're being remotely hacked into in some way.
100%. A lot of it comes down to triggering the Kundalini. So when children are little and they get raped in the anus, it triggers the Kundalini. And so the energy shoots up the spinal column, breaks the brain stem. And once the brain stem is fractalized, it kind of splits open, and then you can remote hack the brain stem, and you can start to create multiple split personalities.
Wow.
That happened to me as a kid.
Oh my
I was raped
God.
at 2 months old, yeah.
Whoa. That's nuts. 2 months old.
Yeah.
That is super young. Jesus. That's disgusting, man. Did you find out who did it?
It was my foster parents.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you think they got taken over?
You know what? It's a long story, but like I found my real mum. I was adopted and fostered, adopted. Found my real mum when I was 24. And a few years ago in Turkey, I was at a healing center, and I'm working on this lady, and a Baphomet comes in behind my back, and it starts pumping fire. And I catch it when it gets to my elbows. I stop it, push it out of my body, get it out of my space, and I carry on working for the rest of the day. I had loads of clients. That evening, I go to the gym. I'm in the gym and I'm setting up a circuit, and then this big guy comes over and he starts moving my weights around. I said, bro, I'm about to do a circuit, and we almost get into a fight in the gym. The next night when I went into the gym, this guy was so lovely. So I knew that night he'd been taken over by something to try and get to me.
Wow.
Anyway, I do my circuit session. I go into the sauna, and I look through the little glass window. I'm sat there on my own in my shorts, and there's a reptilian, a being with a Tyrannosaurus Rex head, and this other being looking at me. And I'm like, what's going on? So anyway, I stay in the sauna for a bit. I get out. I go and have like one of those hammams, because we're in Turkey, like where they wash you. And
Yeah.
you know when you're kind of hot and you've been in a sauna, you're in a sort of like a semi-dreamy state. I start getting all this information. And so I phoned my real mum when I came out of the gym. I said, listen, what happened when I was born? Something happened, and I'm downloading this information. She said, listen, I didn't tell your her parents, my grandparents, that she was pregnant, because she didn't have a man. She had like a one-night stand with this guy with blonde hair and blue eyes, a bit like a Nazi.
Yeah.
And she told her parents that she was going to college. So she went from Birmingham to Cheltenham in the UK, went into this home for women that are out of wedlock. When it was time to give birth to me, they took her into this room and they left her crying for hours. Then they came in, 2 men in black masks, a nurse in a black mask. They got a big pair of scissors and they started cutting her vagina open.
Jeez.
With no medication.
Oh my God.
And so it was just brutal. And then they just ripped me out, went and stuck me in the next room on this kind of like metal kind of tray thing, and left her screaming for hours and hours. And then came back in, stitched her back up, no medication, and boom, just sent her home. It was brutal. And then they gave me to my first foster parents, and I was in Mexico last year, and I woke up at 2 a.m, and I see myself wrapped in cling film, and there's a man and a woman, which are my foster parents, and there's a man with blonde hair and blue eyes, and I realized it was my real dad.
Wow.
Crazy. So he was there with them, and I was wrapped in cling film. They're suffocating me, and they've got this bit of wood, and they're sticking it at my anus. And every time I'm about to like pass out, because they've got this cling film, they put a hole in my mouth and I could breathe. Then they'd wrap me back up again. This went on for hours. And so I kind of had to go in and heal this part of me.
Oh my God.
But I realized, what had happened at the start of my birth. My mum had, confirmed this torture, and that's how I got brought into the world. But the reason they did that is because I came to Earth to share star magic. I came to Earth to help the human race. I'm an extraterrestrial being, just like you are in this human form, and I've come here to share these galactic codes to help humanity grow and remember their truth about who they are as that we're Jedis, we're spiritual gangsters, we're powerful beyond measure. And because I'd come here to share these codes, which are helping so many people on planet Earth right now heal, they knew that I was coming down, so they tracked me from the start and just tried to stop it all happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Wild, I know.
Yeah. So they knew you were coming before you were even born.
Yeah, there was a project called Project Oak Tree. So women that were born in the 50s, that had sons that were born in the 70s and daughters that were born in the 80s, the women had to have a life path number of 8 or 11, which made their wombs a stargate. So these women would bring certain souls in. And so Project Oak Tree was about tracking these souls. So many men and women, that are around my age from the 80s and the 70s, they've been through this process because it was a big attack on certain souls coming down.
Yeah, that happened back in the day with the witches, right? The witches were under attack.
100%.
What caused that to happen?
Same thing that's happening now. It's fear from the other side. You've got people down here sharing multi-dimensional capabilities, tapping into the field, bringing through sacred God codes and goddess codes, king and queen codes to help humanity remember their full power, their true human super potential.
Right.
And so the church, and then at a higher level, the beings that are controlling the church don't like it. So they come down and they try and stop it.
Yeah. There are good witches, but recently there's been a lot of witchcraft, right?
There are some amazing witches. I mean, there was a story in the UK. This is a crazy story. But there was, and it was all over the newspapers and all over the news for a year or so. There was a little baby that was born in Liverpool. And the baby was called Baby Alfie. And so anyway, when Baby Alfie was born, they said that he was born with some kind of like neurodegenerative disease, some brain disease. But actually what happened, the baby was born and they injected him with something. And the reason they did that is because this child had a very specific soul from the Bible inside of it. Samuel from the Bible was inside this baby. And the mum and dad were trying to get this baby to some kind of like specialist doctor. The police surrounded the hospital. Armed police would not let the mum and dad take their baby out of the hospital. Why? Isn't that a bit extreme?
Yeah.
So I think it was Prince William and Kate were having a new baby Louis. And so baby Louis was going to be born, and they were keeping this baby alive in the hospital with this soul of Samuel inside of it. 13 witches got flown to Ireland and were supposed to go to Liverpool to do a soul transfer. So they were going to take baby Samuel's soul and move it into the baby of Kate and get rid of the soul from Kate's baby and put this very specific soul in, so that soul could come into the bloodline of the royal family in the UK. But what happened is these 13 witches got stopped on the way.
Whoa.
And Samuel got sent back.
Wow.
Back to source. And he's come down now into a different body.
Holy crap. So there's been soul reincarnations from people in the Bible?
Absolutely.
Interesting. That is fascinating stuff. I don't even know what to say to that. Soul transfer. How does that process work?
Well, you got two physical bodies, and then energetically, you've got to quantumly take the soul from the one womb and put it into the other womb inside the baby. So it's all done through intention. It's all done through frequency. So you've got to get that soul. You've got to lift it out of the body into a quantum space where it's going to be safe. Now, remember, one baby could be in Liverpool, one baby could be in London, but there's no time, distance, and measurement. So what you can do is you can lift the soul up into the space and bring the two bodies into a quantum space together. So you could literally, it's like taking the baby from here to here. It's like sticking it down in. It's actually a very simple process. It just takes a lot of energy to hold space to enable that to happen, so that when the soul leaves the body, the magnetic pull doesn't pull it back in, or when the soul leaves the body, it doesn't go somewhere else.
Wow. So when it comes to cloning, is that what they do there too? Because the new body still needs a soul, right?
Well, they'll bring a soul in from somewhere else. I mean, there's souls everywhere. Yeah, there's many souls stuck in the in-between world. There's souls that they can bring down from another planet, from another quantum space.
Wow. Another
Yeah.
planet. Damn. But does it retain the memories, or is it a blank slate?
It depends. It depends. I worked with a lady in America that had been cloned twice.
Wow.
And what was happening is the two clones were being abused. So everything that was happening to the two clones was happening to her. And this was a really, really like nasty, horrible case to work with, because we had to kind of disconnect this woman, her DNA code from the two ladies that were somewhere else in America, because they were being abused like sexually, satanically, on many different levels. It was a long process to bring her out of that space.
Yeah. Soul cords are a thing too, right? Where you're attached to someone.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, basically, I just had to clear. I had 2 negative attachments. I just found out.
Okay, so we have energy cords.
Energy cords.
Yeah, we have energy cords that can be attached to other humans, that could be attached to like me in a parallel reality, which could be another piece of my soul.
Yeah.
It could be attached to some negative being in the quantum field. So what we want to make sure, we as humans have no energy cords attached to anyone. Even if you're a mum or a dad with a child, you don't want any energy cords attached, because you want all the people to be free,
Right.
to have their own energy to themselves, to make their own decisions. So what happens is a lot of people feed off other people's energy, so they lock in a cord. A lot of people don't realize they're doing it. I mean, I was married for 17 years, and for a few years after we were married, I'd wake up in the morning and see another energy cord hanging out of me and my wife. You know, it's not her fault or my fault. It's just we were so connected that we, you know, naturally there's that part that wants to reach out. So you kind of lock into each other. It doesn't happen anymore. But like, you know, if I go to a workshop, there could be a few hundred people there. When I get back to my hotel room in the evening, I'm having a shower, I'm taking cords out of me, because I'm naturally cording into people.
Yeah.
You know, and people are corded into me because the energy is just flowing.
Yeah.
It just happens. So we need to maintain that spiritual hygiene. There are some beings that will come in and attach naturally, like in dream time, to try and control you and feed off of you, or they may put implants inside of you.
Jeez. Yeah, the implants are scaring me, man. I'm hearing more and more of these stories. That's how they really control you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you before we started about the interview a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
You know, guy starts choking out. They place an implant in his throat during the interview.
Yeah.
And he can't talk.
And you have no idea it's there.
Crazy, until
know.
he started choking.
And even like people that are very like spiritually aware, they're getting implanted without them even knowing.
Absolutely.
It's super
I
scary.
check myself every day, man.
Wow.
If you don't check yourself every day, you're doing a disservice to yourself, to your friends, your family, everybody.
Yeah. So while I'm learning how to do that, I have someone doing it for me for now. But yeah, I want to get to that level. It's important, especially guys like us exposing a lot of stuff.
100%. I mean, you know, I was speaking to someone the other day, and they said, "What do you reckon about this spiritual war?" And I was like, "Well, the spiritual war this, the spiritual war that." He said, "Don't you think we should call it a spiritual dance?" I said, "Why don't we call it a spiritual ceremony?" And you know what? Like, we are kind of in a spiritual war, but if we look at it as a spiritual ceremony, it is like a dance between good and evil, light and dark, whatever you want to call it. They're just facets of reality, different vibrational fields of experience. But we're dancing with this stuff. And if we stay in love and we don't tip into fear, we can see it as a ceremony and realize, even though there are things that could harm us, there are things that could derail our train and that are detrimental to us, our human evolution and our spiritual evolution, at the same time, it's a dance, and we should have fun with it, because if it wasn't for the other side of the game, it wouldn't be as fun. We wouldn't be learning and growing the way that we're learning and growing. We're down here with no memory, even though a lot of us are getting it back right now, okay? But there are many people without that memory. But if the dark side wasn't here, and I don't even like to use that word dark side, but let's just call it the dark side. If the dark side weren't here, how would we upskill? How would we up-level? They're part of our training experience. So we've got to be grateful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's necessary, right?
It's necessary.
Because I am growing fast because of it. I wouldn't have the same drive, I think, to learn about this stuff without it.
100%.
Yeah. Did this, I guess, dark side exist with the ancient civilizations too, like Atlantis?
Absolutely.
Really?
It's been around since forever.
Oh, wow. Because when you think of Atlantis, you think of just like positivity, right?
There's been dark and light everywhere. And there's been different like variations and degrees of the balance. So there's been parts of our human history when it was much better, when we were getting on and the light was kind of like in full flow, and then the dark was more kind of subdued. But it's never gone away, and it's been the same through our galactic history, not just on planet Earth. There's been times when warring factions in space have had agreements, and there's been millions of years where things have been peaceful. Yeah. And then another war kicks off because the dark starts to play around again. When there's balance, it's beautiful. But what happens is when there's balance, you forget about what it's like to not be in balance. So then the dark gets curious, and the equilibrium tips. Yeah. And then people go to war again. And then they decide, we've had enough of this stuff. So let's become peaceful again. Yeah. And they forget what it's like. So it's these cycles that just play out over and over.
Yeah. Do you think there was war on Mars? Because there's some big craters on Mars, right?
100%.
Yeah, it looks like it was war-torn.
We call them cosmic journeys. So we've been doing meditations for many years, and every time we do a meditation, we'll set targets, or we'll just go and explore. We take people through portals. We go all over the multiverse. We've been to Mars loads of times. I've been to Mars when there were golden pyramids, when there were crystalline pyramids, when it was thriving. There were these cities that were amazing. Wow. We've been there in these different time periods and experienced what it was like. Absolutely teeming with life, beautiful.
So what happened? Was it nuclear war, or how did it get to where it is now, I guess?
Yeah, there was a war. There was a planet called Marduk. And so Marduk was a feminine planet. So I cut that a little bit, bro. What was the name of that planet? I forgot the name of the planet.
We could edit it.
Yeah. Let me just have a look at the name of the planet.
Yeah. I'll tell my editor 40 minutes. Meek. Edit 40 minutes 30.
What was the name of that planet?
Sargeant. Yeah, I text my editor, so you're good.
It's really important we get the name of this planet. Feminine planet. I've got it written in here. I'm just trying to think where I've written it. Maldek, that was it. Yeah. It's a fucking beautiful planet, man.
Yeah. I haven't heard of this one.
So there was a planet called Maldek, and a very, very feminine planet. There were mermen, mermaids, a lot of aquatic life, and it was a little bit like Earth, but I don't know, much more beautiful, man. And so there were wars over the planet Maldek. They blew up Maldek. And they also went to Mars, the Dracos, the Alpha Draconians, negative Palladians, negative Andromedans. They went to war with the Martians. And they used these kind of like technologies that were so powerful, some kind of like laser / electromagnetic technology, which blew up the atmosphere. And it just caused absolute total destruction. A lot of the souls that are here on planet Earth right now came from Mars.
Wow.
So when Mars got blown up, and some of the beings went underground. They didn't survive for too long. Some of them survived a little bit longer, but they all went extinct eventually. But there is even life on Mars now.
Really?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. I'll tell you a story about that in a moment. But a lot of the souls that got blown up in the Mars wars ended up floating around in space for a little while, and then ended up coming down into the reincarnation cycle, down onto planet Earth looking for refuge.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of souls still in space then. That's interesting.
There is a lot of souls in space, yeah.
Damn.
There's a lot. There's something called soul rescue work. So if you go into the in-between world, so say for example someone is in a car crash.
Yeah.
They die really quickly. They still think that they're alive. Because when you come out of your body, it's just as real as being in your body. It's just you can walk through dimensions and be anywhere at the same time. So you still feel the things you feel, and you still think the things that you think, and you just have no recollection that you're not out of your body anymore. So it's a shock. And some souls get lost and stuck in that in-between world state.
Yeah, because time doesn't exist in that state, right?
Time doesn't exist, so you're just kind of hanging around. So loads of them get stuck. So we sometimes do something called soul rescue work, where we'll go in and we'll open portals and help them go back to source, or to whichever dimensional space they need to go to learn their lessons.
Yeah, I heard there's a lot of souls in the water too, in the ocean.
in the ocean.
And the shipwrecked.
Everywhere. All over the place. Yeah, there's many dimensional fields. So like even if you talk about the ocean, within the ocean you're going to have multiple dimensions,
Wow.
depending on what kind of frequency you're on. Because really and truly, the ocean doesn't exist. Here in this physical reality, the ocean exists. When you get into higher dimensional fields, there's no liquid.
That is interesting. But you mentioned earlier there was life on Mars right now.
Yeah. So like for years, there's been people going missing from planet Earth. They've got slave trades on Mars where they take human beings, where they're working them and slave driving them underneath the ground to create different technologies, to rebuild underground cities within Mars. Only a few weeks ago, I was going through this process, doing some of my own healing. And it started off, I found myself in this other reality, and I had my little sister was there. My little sister was the soul of my partner in this reality. And these elephants came through and they crushed her. So I rewound the timeline, and then I picked her up and put her on my back, climbed up this mountain, and then the elephants came through and didn't kill her. So I changed that piece of code and downloaded it, so I never had these kind of feelings anymore. And then I got taken to Mars, and I found this boy. He was 12 years old, and it was me from an earthly reality. And what happened, I'd been taken as a child up to these kind of slave trades. So I had to get myself from this reality, bring myself back to Earth. I was from a farming family somewhere in America, so I had to reunite myself back with my mum and dad.
Wow.
And then once I'd done that and brought all of that piece of me into healing, this feeling of self-worth, this real deep feeling of self-worth that I thought I dealt with, I found another layer of it, and it was because of this.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So sometimes there's pieces of us in the field that we've got to go and collect.
Yeah, because we're living so many lives simultaneously, right?
Absolutely. There's no time, there's no distance, there's no measurement. Everything's unfolding in the same space at the same time.
That's crazy, yeah. Well, I heard from Billy Carson, that's why the Anunnaki created humans, right? For slave work.
For gold.
Yeah.
You know, they mined us for gold. They mined us. They created us for reproduction. You know, like an army of slaves to work for them, because their atmosphere blew up. So they needed to get the gold from down here, and they turned it into some kind of like different multi-dimensional substance, and then they took it up to rebuild their atmosphere.
Is gold the currency that other species use in other galaxies and dimensions?
Gold is God.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you look at the word gold and you look at the word God, they're very similar. And it comes back to the philosopher's stone. So, like, we have our electrical mental thoughts. We have our heart frequency, which is magnetic. And then we've got the voice of God, the voice of gold. So that triangulates the currency, that triangulates the frequency. It's that the singularity which comes into duality, the father and the mother, which creates the divine child. So you've got your thoughts, which are electrical, your emotions, which are magnetic, and then you speak the word of God into it, which is the divine child. So a lot of people say, listen, don't tell them about your dreams. If you tell them about your dreams, then they're going to try and crush them and this and that. But what we should be doing is speaking our dreams into existence through the voice of God, which is bringing that gold, the God, into human form. That is the philosopher's stone. It's the triangulation, the original Trinity. The Trinity multiplied and eventually became a tetrahedron. The tetrahedron doubled and became a Merkaba field. We are Merkaba fields.
Wow.
And so we have to use our electrical thoughts infused with our emotional magnetic heart, and then speak into it. And that's how we create.
Yeah, that's why words are so powerful, right?
So powerful. Our words are spells. We've got to, watch what we say, watch what we think. Even what we think is dangerous if we're thinking the wrong stuff.
Right. No, I'm so aware of that now. Anytime a negative thought comes about, I'm like, damn, why am I thinking like that?
Absolutely. I mean, we have to be present, totally locked into this 0 point. Just here and now with no thoughts. Like if you're speaking, I have to listen. I can't be thinking about what I'm going to say next. Otherwise, I'm not present.
Wow.
And if you're there listening to me, you're present. A lot of people don't listen. A lot of people are thinking about what they're going to do later, or what they had for dinner this morning, or the argument they had with their girlfriend, or whatever it is. Most people aren't present when they're listening.
100%.
But the greatest gift we can give to another human being is to be fully present and listen.
Yeah.
And when we become fully present, our mind empties. We bring all of that energy back into our. We harness it in that 0 point, because 80% of our energy gets drained through our thoughts.
Damn, that much?
A lot of it, yeah,
Holy
80%
crap.
of our energy. So as soon as you stop thinking, you become more energized, you become clear, you become whole. And when you're in that state of wholeness, you're in that state of creativity, and life just starts to flow.
Dang, that's good to know. 80%. So you could really tire yourself out.
100%.
That's so true, though, because, I play chess, and I get so tired after, because I'm just thinking nonstop.
Yeah.
I feel more tired after chess than, like, basketball sometimes.
It's interesting.
Crazy, right? I did want to ask about the moon, because a lot of my audience likes the moon conspiracy theories. So was there ever life on the moon?
There is life on the moon.
Right now?
Inside the moon.
Wow.
Yeah, multiple different species. Yeah, the moon wasn't even part of our galaxy. The moon was brought from somewhere else into our local planetary environment. If you look at the ley lines on planet Earth, the grid points, so underneath Stonehenge in the UK, you've got a massive crystal. And that crystal is 8 stories high. It's huge. And so churches are built on ley lines, hospitals, cinemas, anywhere where they can create fear. So when there's energy that's building up, a negative energy, they suck it down into the ley lines and they send it to these different grid points around Earth. Stonehenge is one of them.
Wow.
They charge the crystal, get it fully charged, and then send the energy up to Saturn.
To Saturn?
They store it on Saturn, and when there's a full moon, they send the energy to Saturn, and then it comes off the full moon and rebounds back down to Earth. That's why they put more police on duty, more hospital staff on duty on a full moon, because there's more murders, there's more suicides, there's more crazy stuff happening. Wow. Because they're using our own energy against us. And you get a lot of women that go out and they pray to the moon and they hand themselves over to the moon. It's dangerous.
Damn.
The worst thing we could be doing.
The moon is a weapon in a sense.
Absolutely.
How were they able to transport something that large to that position?
You know what, I always look at it like this. We play pool, or we play snooker, and you got those pool balls that just roll down the table. I always look at this multi-dimensional game like a great big game of pool. So these beings that could, so for us as humans, we could hit a pool ball and it goes down the table. These beings can pick planets up and move them. Because some of these creator beings and these creator gods, they're absolutely gigantic.
Wow.
And they've got the technologies and the wisdom and the knowledge to be able to move things. Like telepathy, telekinesis, phasing out of reality and phasing back into reality, bilocation, all of this stuff. Like, this is natural when you've got a fully activated 12-strand template and you've got all of your multidimensional faculties online.
Right.
How do they build the pyramids? No one carried those massive stones.
Yeah, there's no way. Absolutely
no way. They were able to levitate these stones. They're able to move planets around. Imagine you're a being that's 8-9 times bigger than the galaxy. Pick a planet up and just take it over there.
Wow, so there's beings that
Absolutely.
Big. What would they be called? Are those giants or?
I wouldn't call them giants, man. I would call them creator gods.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we're here on planet Earth. We're here down on this training ground to remember our way back home, to fully reactivate ourselves so that we can remember how to be creator beings again. Because they send the best of the best to planet Earth. And they send the best of the best here because it is such a tough training ground. And so we remember how to be these fully activated, 12-strand, templated, Christ consciousness beings. God, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, walking around in human form, just like we used to be on the planet Tara hundreds of millions of years ago when we were much taller and our pineal glands were bigger. We're remembering how to be those creator beings again. So when we decide to choose to leave this worldly environment, we can go to the next stage of the game. And that would be to another planet or go back and be one of these creator beings and, go out and create another galaxy. Go out and build a new universe.
Damn.
There are multiple constructs out there. Like, we've got this 15th dimensional time matrix. But if you go beyond it, you look around, you see there's multiple ones. There's multiple matrices just like this.
Yeah, and it just goes on and on. Like,
on and on.
Is there an end to all this?
I've never seen an end, and I've traveled extensively.
Oh, so it's just an infinite loop then.
And I've never really seen probably a slither of it.
Wow. That's interesting. So we're pretty much immortal then.
We are immortal beings, 100%.
Like, you've never seen a soul get destroyed?
No.
Wow. Yeah.
Energy can't be destroyed.
So that's true.
It just shifts form and moves into one form. Energy can be captured and energy can be tortured. Energy can be manipulated, but it can't be destroyed.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Jared, it's been awesome. When are your next events? Where can people find you, man?
So go to starmagickeeling.org. Everything's on there, man. We've got an event this weekend in LA. It's sold out. We've got an event in Barcelona in a couple of weeks. We've got our Egypt trip coming up. We're fully locked and loaded all year. So go to the website, check it out. We've got an app that people can download and they can connect with us online a few times a week. Go for your transmissions, learn how to protect yourself. Just stay in that 0 point and be a higher dimensional being in this physical form.
Love it. Check out his stuff, guys. Super important these days. So highly recommend it. And I'll see you guys next time.